Fresh and Untitled. Hey kids! We're promoting Budweiser again tonight.
Budweiser. And of course, as a Canadian, I am promoting Timmy's.
Timmy Hortons.
Timmy Hortons.
So, should we start?
So this week's episode is going to be about what you need to do after you've got that idea for a short story, a novella, or a novel, whatever it is. A lot of people get it and they say, okay, I've got this great idea. And what the hell do I do with it? That's what our goal with this episode is to help you, to give you the tools that we had to find and claw and fight for on our own, because no one wanted to share them.
I'm still finding some of the shit I'm giving you now. So, privileged much? Yes.
We're going to share our combined knowledge to make it easier for you.
Yeah.
Because we rock.
The first thing you really want to do is figure out what year you're in, and where are you, and make that definitive. It doesn't have to be an exact year, but at least give a decade. And a century would be nice as well. You have to have a root somewhere. My places are all usually fictional, mostly because I spent so long fucking doing outlines and research and everything, that I really don't want to go and research an exact place as well, so I just make up a place.
A setting, wherever it takes place, is treat it like a character. Give it form, give it substance, give it personality.
I don't know how you do it, but I was always taught with my English teacher. She always said that when we were outlining our essay, to have your idea and then follow it on with little plots. So that's what I do. Basically, I have my idea, and I have, you see?
Yes.
I have, so here's what happens. This is an event, and it follows on to this event, follows on to this event. And on the side, I might have little notes as to, weather or what's happening. They're moving along or something like that. So I do have, pretty much in-depth, because I need to know where my story is going to end. A lot of writers actually start writing and they don't know how the end of the story is. That, to me, I couldn't do that. So I have big outlines.
That's
for
massive.
My stuff. But this is a sequel, so I have to have stuff and this is notes for the third one. So it's not all the second one. So I do, I spend probably more time on my outline than I do actually writing it, because it's nearly all written in here as it is. So that's my little way of doing it. But everybody has their own way. They might just have bullet points, or how do you do it?
I start with an outline, an idea, and I generally get maybe 10 to 15 pages of where I want it to go, who the main characters are, and what point I want them to get from the beginning to the end of the story. And then after I've developed that, I go through and I make notes about the town that they're in, the weather. I do the research on the type of trees, plants, foliage, local idioms, roads, streets. I do everything. And then I make a more involved outline once I get which character is going to be involved with who, what their backstory is. Because a lot of times something will come up in a story and you're like, oh, but I don't want this character to like pizza. Why? Okay, got to go figure that out. And then I make a more comprehensive outline that probably turns into about 60 to 70 pages, roughly. And then I write the story. And then what happens is once I get that rough draft, I go back to my original outline and I make the little alterations for the story, kind of mind of its own. And I write down what I have happen in each chapter, and I make sure that it's consistent, because sometimes you run into problems. And so I check for those inconsistencies, and if I find them, I fix them. And then I also expand upon things. A lot of things that when I'm writing, I'll put in parentheses, add in later backstory about pizza.
Yeah, part of this folder for editing, for when I'm editing. Yeah. It's I have to add this in, I have to change this. I first did the first outline I have here. a timeline. So it's like the first version, so like day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. So I know how much time has actually passed in the story.
Right.
But then later on, I have like an updated version of it as the story went along, you know. So here we have timeline third version is waiting to be done here at the minute. When I wrote my first story, I didn't have this much shit. You just find a way to make it easier on yourself. But it always is better to have like a beginning, a middle, and an end.
My first story, it's like I wrote it and then I was like, oh, this is awesome. And then I read it and I was like, wow, that not so awesome.
There's like
And
plot
that needs a
holes
lot
that are
of
like
work.
black holes.
Wow, how did I not see that plot hole I can drive a truck through? Like, even if you deviate a little bit from it, that's okay. As long as
Oh,
you
I always
have
deviate completely.
the bare bones, you have that skeleton to work with. You're just adding the flesh and the muscle and the tissue afterwards, but you need the skeleton.
My outline is a pathway, and like there might be like shortcuts or there might be long cuts that I will take around the original pathway, and it usually works out better. Like for instance, there's a character that I was writing about, and he was to do this certain thing, and this is imperative to the storyline. And when I got to that point in it, it was like, oh, it doesn't fit in, it doesn't feel right. So I went around about, and it actually worked out 10 times better than the original path. But you need, like, if there's a big gap there, then you're writing and you're typing, and then you come to this gap in your outline, and you're like, what the fuck am I going to do now? Where is he? Where's everybody gone? Hello?
Yep.
You know, so it's like, it's really handy to have an idea, especially for those days when writing is hard and you're doing it because you have to. And if you don't
Yep.
have an outline there, you're going to be sitting basically like our intro. That's what you're going to be doing if you don't have some form or something to follow. And, you know, if you have something to follow, at least you can type it. It may be absolute shit. And you go back and look at it and it's just like a piece of wood. It's nothing. But you can add into it and you can put, you know, when you're in a better mood and you're in a writing mood and a creative mood, you can fix that in seconds. There's nothing to do if there's nothing there. But
you can't fix what's not there.
Yeah, fact. I've heard people who say that that they don't know the end before while they're writing it. Now, if this worked for you, grand. I think Stephen King is one of those guys who doesn't even know the end. But I think you have to have some idea of the ending. Because the way I look at it is, in the story, my prequel to this outline I showed you, there was a loose floorboard at the end of her bed. And this came into big play later on in the book. Now, if I didn't know how my story was going to end, how did I know I needed a loose, creaky floorboard at the end of that bed? So then if you don't know your outline, then you get to the end of the book and all of a sudden you're introducing this creaky floorboard. It's terribly convenient that it's there. We've not heard of it before, but hey, you know what, like creaky floorboard. So it adds substance to the story if you've already mentioned this creaky floorboard earlier on. And then for the scare factor, we know there's a creaky floorboard. And you know what I mean? It can help with the scare if you're writing horror, of course.
If you want to pants it, because I think that's the term I hear people using nowadays, I'm going to pants it. You know, it's like, oh, have fun. Yeah, don't want anybody to read that one. You know, and I guess those stories, I find the characters and even the plot really are very lacking.
It's more like moving from scene to scene. It's like jump, 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 then flowing. And it's that way because you have no path to follow. It's just like, oh, we're doing this now. Oh, there we are now. Yep, there we are now. There. And it's just like, you know, you can tell. You can tell when something's not thought out that well. So, like, I mean, I recommend spending a lot of time on an outline. And you know you've got this idea in your head and you want to start typing. You just want to start. It's like, oh my God, I've spent a week on this outline. Spend 4 weeks. Spend 2 months on it. You will be thankful for it in the end because when you get to the actual writing, you go like that.
Yep, and especially when it comes to outlining your characters because you don't realize how important it is to keep their description consistent throughout the book. Like if your main character starts out as blonde hair and blue eye and by the end of the book he's got brown eyes and blue hair, there's an issue going on.
I was in this writing competition, send in the story, everybody judges it, everybody in the competition reads it, judges it, marks it. There was one story now and the character at the start had a different name than he had at the end. And I made a comment on this and I marked it as 0 for that, like, because I think no, like, that is the number one no, like, if you don't know your character's name,
Yeah.
you're going to get any, continuity, anything like that. So Martha, we were allowed to comment back on what people had marked as or said about it, like, and somebody, whoever it was, came back and said, like, oh, that was just a small error. I can't believe I got 0 for this. No, that's like calling your mother daddy. I mean, sorry, forgot for a moment who you were there. It's kind of huge.
Yes, a little bit. Manuscript formatting.
Imperative.
Do not get creative with your font. Times New Roman, Courier New, whatever, 12 point, one space after a period. Don't underline stuff. Use italics sparingly. Make sure you put conversation in quotation marks, please.
Punctuating dialogue's tough enough. It's not. It is a tough thing. Like, I still sit and I'm thinking, should that be a comma or a full stop?
Every new and upcoming writer needs this book. 60 pages, not long, but it has so much information.
Do not even attempt to start a book unless you have a decent word processing software. Because you have to remember, you can download all these free ones, and like OpenOffice and all that, the brand are like almost exactly the same as Microsoft Word, until you send it to a publisher and they open it in Microsoft Word. And all of a sudden your lovely formatting, your perfect tab lines and all that, null and void, because they won't open up. They're not compatible with Word and whatever. And I always use Word. I used to use OpenOffice until I had this exact problem with my publisher, and I said, I'm so sorry. Like, he had sent me the complete edits of the book, and he had sent me everything was finished, was perfect, and I opened it in OpenOffice. I didn't notice any change. I was like, yeah, no, that's grand. Sent it back to him and said, what the fuck did you do to the book, right? If you're thinking, I'm going to handwrite everything. No, you're not. You're not, because very few publishers actually take hard copy submissions anymore. It's all email.
Character names.
Yes.
Change them up. Don't have them sound alike. Make sure I can tell the difference between Bob and John. I don't want to have a Bob and a Rob.
Anna, Anne, and Anita are not even friends. They don't know each other. They're from different continents. They're not in the same book.
I can't stand that when I'm sitting there and I'm trying to figure something out. Which one's Anna? What was she?
Flip back to find out, yeah, she's the blonde one with big boobs. Yeah, I remember her. You've got to name your characters with the times as well. Don't just name them as your most favorite name, just because you want to use this name.
No.
There's no point in calling somebody in 1990 Violet, because there was no Violet around in the 1990s. This was like a 70s name, 40s maybe.
Yep.
You gotta make it believable as well. Don't just use your prettiest, nicest names that you could ever think of. Google it. Girls' names in the 1890s.
Clothing has to match that. Like, when you do your characters and your description, everything, the setting has to be a character in and of itself. Like, where it takes place, bring it to life. What colors are the leaves on the trees? What kind of trees? What kind of cars are parked on the street? What kind of clothes are people wearing? And even more importantly is the weather. You cannot have the same weather every single day. Sometimes it's morning, sometimes it's night, sometimes it's sunny, cloudy, rainy, humid, whatever it is, throw it in there. Throw in something to change it up and have the characters react to it. Like, why is your character all of a sudden wearing a sweater? Like, is it cold? Is it raining? Did she get a chill? Why?
I kind of thought, like, it's a really good idea the way you said it like that. You better have to be a character. So if your entire book has 2 characters, then your entire book has 3 characters. It's got Bob, Joan, and it's got the weather. And they have to be introduced in every chapter. They have to be introduced in every kind of event. As soon as Bob or Joan walks out the door, weather pops up.
Simple stuff like that You don't think about it because in your head as a writer, it's a sunny day, it's wonderful, they're sitting at the park, it's great, and there's a nice breeze. It's in your head, but you don't put it in the story. You're just like, they went to the park, they had a picnic, and there was people, and then there was ants, and then they went home.
And it can be tedious, like, because it's in your head, and you, as a writer, you're going like, oh, fuck's sake, I know all this already, but I have to tell these people.
But it's important because, like, say halfway through your book, you need to have something happen, and if for the first 200 pages you haven't mentioned the sun, the moon, the stars, a breeze, a draft, a cloud, a sky, and then all of a sudden there's a thunderstorm, it's going to jolt the reader right out of that story because they're going to be like, weather? Weather doesn't happen in this story. One of the best ways, actually, I think, to get your book, self-published or otherwise, to go viral would be to, I don't know, be a guest on our show, comment and subscribe.
Comment, subscribe, please. Please.
If anybody has a question, you can hit us up on the Facebook page.
We now have a Facebook page.
Our page gives us our statistics, and we have a 2-minute average response time to any messages sent, which puts us in the 100th percentile. So, just so you know, with the two of us monitoring it, your message will get responded to.
We know everybody. We know everybody in the game.
We've got a load of people that want to come on.
We've got publishers. We've got agents as well. We've got some editors.
Producers.
We got actors.
Comic book writer.
Artists.
Script writer, accomplished writer, novelist.
A filmmaker.
We've got a screenwriter.
The fucking guru of self-publishing.
Your publisher would like to come on?
Yes. Very excited about that, yeah. Oh, and we also have an author who has a film of one of his books coming out in April. So, yeah, we got connections, girl. We got connections.
That means, folks, that, like, now is the time to get in and comment, subscribe, please. I mean, who doesn't want to watch a Canadian girl and an Irish girl go back and forth? We're pretty awesome, I think.